Good late Tuesday, early Wednesday meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving you a look at that Doppler perspective. I know if you were watching our radar stream earlier on, we switched that logo from what we had last week, that red logo, because we were in alert mode because of what we thought could become a more significant threat with Sarah. We have it in just a normal mode now, a normal logo, because things didn't materialize with that here toward the U.S. for the most part. Thankfully, granted, we have seen some moisture and connection partially to what was left of the remnants of Tropical Storm Sarah, but nothing just overwhelming. I know we did have some gusty winds. I think we had a gust of about 55 miles an hour on Tallahassee with some of this action, but it's really falling apart as it's moved further on toward the east, especially in our area. They might get a little bit more along the west central Florida and, west Florida coast, even further down southwest Florida and the like, but a lot of that's really falling apart. So that's kind of the storyline there. I mean, we have seen some moisture, Tallahassee and the like, getting into the action, a few power outages here and there, but really nothing too crazy overall, so that's good. I know you can see the rain around Tallahassee was fairly substantial, 2-3 inches of rain from about Tallahassee west, but it really fell off as you're looking there, as you're looking at the maps, as we got further on off toward the east. That was some great news, obviously. If you didn't want the rain, now some of us, maybe you did want the rain, but at least, that wind threat is kind of falling off as well. I mean, we'll go back and radar this 4 hours ago. Things were a lot more organized here, but definitely kind of breaking on up here in the overall meteorological setup. Let me go ahead and put on here our infrared satellite. We'll go ahead and do that right now. You can see how organized things are to the south, but that action just hadn't been materializing toward land. I mean, I'll go back 4 hours and you can see it looks like, way further north you had the axe, and maybe it would come in, towards some of these Florida communities further up, but it's kind of just keeps sifting off, and that's kind of the overall pattern here. So that's some good news as we're looking at things. So I know that is ominous seeing that on the infrared satellite, but it's not, as concerning as it looks there from that standpoint. I was measuring moisture content as we're looking at the upper levels. I know moisture content in lower levels you see still pretty high, but as we get further off you see much lower values, and that's a sign of things that come as we're going to have cooler, drier conditions coming on in toward that local forecast here as we do look ahead. So that's kind of something to keep our eyes on here as we're dealing with things. I know kind of giving you guys a sign of the conditions to come. So I know remnant moisture from Sarah, I know, is a lot more productive there a few hours ago with that. Again, we did have gusts of like 55 miles an hour around Tallahassee there and the like. And now they look up toward the northwest. I do want to touch on something that's not tropical, but I want to put on our satellite here. Let's bear with me a second, because you can see this is very well organized, and it looks tropical, but that's not, in some ways, but it's not. But they're getting some nasty winds, and some other impacts along the west coast of the U.S. there. I'm going to even have some significant flash flooding threats as we look toward Northern California, as we're looking in the days to come in this pattern. But it's kind of storyline there as we're tracking the overall situation. Definitely it's interesting to see as we're kind of monitoring things. So I want to make sure we touch on that real quick as we kind of bring it back toward that local view here. And I know they have a lot more power outages in Washington State, just, very isolated on like Tallahassee here locally, but Washington State, a much different story. But that's not tropical. Some of the moisture that's been impacting us did come from what was Tropical Storm Sarah, but that's been crossed off the list here. Not tropical anymore. Hadn't been for a little bit, really. So as we're looking back and toward the timeline, I know last advisory on that there. I mean, early Monday morning as we were looking, I'll pop it up real quick as we jump on over to our other mode. I mean, this is, you see that D? That was the last one. The Hurricane Center issued a card at the remnant to Sarah at that point. So So there's your list there. Last three names in the basin this season would be Tony, Valor, and William. May not get through all of them. Somehow he did and got to a fourth, and we go to an alternative name list. But right now, I'd be surprised because, I mean, and the way this works, the hurricane season only officially runs to November 30th. Granted, if we have any other storms at between, the beginning of December and the end of December, those would be assigned to this year's list. But if, let's say, we had a storm in January, which, the pattern, we very rarely see that. We saw way out in the Atlantic going back to, I believe it was 2016. It was pretty interesting to see there for sure in the meteorology. But with that setup there, you would start off the A name for 2025 if you have anything in January. So it would go to the main list. So just so you guys know how that kind of works. Maybe we get one more storm out of the season, or even two, I guess is possible. But I'd be surprised. I'd be really surprised if we even got to William here at this point. So as we go ahead and look here at the tropical climatology, you can see we're in November, getting later on. Next week's Thanksgiving, and the chance of the storms do go down as we get later on in the calendar year. Next 7 days rainfall, a lot of this is right now, really, it takes into account the time frame that we're currently in here, and so a lot of this rain is just falling, and it's not going to be that much more here as we're looking ahead. So this is a little misleading in some ways, but not as misleading up here. Going to be a lot of rain in Northern California. You're going to have some big flood potential there. That's a pretty big storyline. We're also going to have, and you don't see it on this map, the area I'm talking about, but there's going to be, and it's not going to show up the exact way, but there's also a winter storm threat toward areas there further up toward like Indiana and the like as we're looking ahead in the short term. But so some interesting national stories. We have some areas of low pressure involved. We could have had a really deep blow around here that could have been a hurricane. The models, all of them for a time there, pretty much the most reliable ones were showing a similar scenario of a hidden Florida. We got real lucky. Because there, were just some little variables here and there. If that system could have stayed just a little bit further away from the coast there around Honduras and the like, it could have really got its act together and it wouldn't have been able to weaken, and the timing with boundary coming in too helped us out as well. But you can see our coverage area, we're always on top of things. If we have any tornado warning storms in the 62 counties, haven't had anything like that tonight here, or even flash floods. If it's thunderstorm warnings, and we've had a bunch of significant weather advisories, so it's kind of just interesting to see as we're looking at the overall situation. So that's kind of the storyline there. As you see, though, that's where Sarah was, the last plot there from the Hurricane Center, as we were looking at that, as we were tracking all that there for you. And then, but let's get to a lighter topic now here, folks, and that's going to be that college football playoff. If I was picking the teams right now and ordering the teams based on the criteria set forth, where you have to put certain champions, conference champions, this is how I'd have it. I'd have Oregon at 1, Texas at 2, SMU there at 3, Boise State at 4. With SMU being in there, I kind of see them differently since they're undefeated in conference and Miami hadn't. But they're saying since Miami's higher ranked that they're counting them in some ways as the conference champion right now. But that game very well, maybe the one that's played as we look ahead now, just a few weeks. But as you're looking there, interested to see Boise State up, and that's where the committee has them as well, ahead as a number 4 conference champ. Doesn't have to be a power conference to get one of those top 4 seeds in a bye there in the playoff. And there's always a chance even that BYU or Colorado or Arizona State, whoever it is there, is a 5th conference champion, potentially Big 12 champion. Maybe they get squeezed out of the American Conference champion, Army or somebody like Tulane. That's not out of the question there either. So kind of interesting as we're looking at things. But that would be pretty interesting as we're looking at the overall situation. I know You see Alabama, Ole Miss. I have this a little differently than committee. They have Georgia in there as well, and Roy just one less ACC team. They have Miami as a champ and SMU out, but and I just don't think honestly that highly of Tennessee, and I do have more that are just a little out right now. I know something interesting. You see Texas in here. I mean, there's teams like Texas. As we're looking at things, I mean, if they were to lose to Texas A&M, you don't even see Texas A&M on the board. There's a chance that all of a sudden they could kind of be out of the picture there. Texas, or at least right near the bottom with 2 losses because they have not had very many good wins, in terms of beating high caliber teams. I mean, on the resume. So that's interesting to consider. I mean, you see teams there, first teams out. You see like Clemson there. I think they're better than Colorado. I think they're better than teams like Texas A&M right now. But I know there's still some time to work things out here as we're looking at the overall situation. Now let's look at that extended forecast over the next 7 days. You can see 50% chance of rain on that Wednesday. Some cool air here Thursday, Friday, cold maybe for Saturday morning. Really, so bundle up. It's going to be chilly out there, folks. I mean, we're talking the coldest there we've had in many months. You see it warming up a little as we look ahead, as we, go day by day. And then ultimately, it's warming up a lot by like next Tuesday there, a couple days before Thanksgiving. We're sitting all the way at 77 degrees. So that's a pretty warm temperature, getting back above average again. I mean, we're 77 with that forecast today, and by next Tuesday, 77. I mean, we could be kind of now more on a roller coaster, up and down. You get fronts, they'll cool you down, and you warm back up. Could be that kind of pattern as we look ahead at things here and the overall setup with the overall situation here in the weeks to come. So that's kind of the storyline there with that 7-day forecast. Could have some areas get frost conditions here, maybe even in Georgia, maybe a spot or two even get some freeze conditions like Saturday morning. Shouldn't be like a hard freeze or anything like that, but just kind of something to touch on here as we're looking at things right now. So now let's go ahead and let's start to wrap it up here for tonight, though. I know I'll put the radar back on here as we're looking at things. And I'll kind of giving you a look there at exactly what's going on here across our region. You see some light shower activity, so be careful on the road and the like as we're dealing with things, as we're tracking things here in the Weather Center. So just kind of keep it tuned here. We'll give you the latest information as needed on stuff, but next update here will be on Thursday night, it would seem. That's when the next update would probably need to be. I mean, there's no reason that it looks like we'll have to come on sooner, so that's some good news. Have a great night. Stay safe out there, and I'll be back with more weather information late Thursday or late Friday.